How you doing all? It is Thursday, January 15, 2026. Welcome back after the Tuesday. And I think we're going to do tonight in a nice, tight, compact way. What does that mean? Well, it means it's going to be a little shorter than what we did on the Tuesday. I wasn't intending to go, one full hour, but as I went back and reviewed that particular stream, that show from Tuesday, like there was a lot there, and so it's not like it's bad material, bad content, right? It's just that it's a lot, and I want to try to keep it as concise as possible so that there are um instead of doing one endless 15-hour show, right? It's far easier for people to digest and to learn if you did 15 1-hour shows, etc. You get the point. So anyway, so we're going to try to keep tonight um a little more narrow in the focus again, but we're still dealing with, as I've said before, the areas that I want to tackle and approach, and then we can grow from that later. But for right now, I want to keep it specifically to, I think, the areas that are of most concern for me, and that I think those of you out there in Mexican America, America in general, that you need to be concerned with, and that are very, very important. And what ends up happening in the United States with us as a people is the day-to-day stuff, the domestic issues and problems or issues that we face end up taking up the majority of your time and thought, and justifiably so, right? It's our day-to-day lives. However, we do not understand, or we do not grasp, and we do not really, place the importance necessary on our foreign policy as we do the domestic. And again, for the obvious reason, domestic is what we deal with day to day. It's hard to wrap your head around some of the things that have to do on the foreign policy side. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be, unequivocally clear here. They're two sides of a coin. It is not just one side, and that's all we need to be concerned with, all we need to know, right? We live in a big world. We're not the only ones that live in it, even though some of you out there would like to believe that you are the only ones that live in the world, because you're Americans, United States citizens, and you think that we can do whatever we want as we want because insert your own reason. But again, it is two sides of a coin: domestic policy, foreign policy. And so I'm ending up spending more time, at least in this initial build up again for my stream, for my show, as we're back on air after a number of years off. But I'm spending a lot of time because I really, really want to hammer down on the area that I think the United States people are least understanding of the two sides to that coin. In this case, foreign policy. Okay, so I'm spending more time on it, and so tonight will be that. We did touch a little bit, and we have touched for the most part different aspects of our foreign policy over the shows that we've done. I can't remember exactly, what the number is. I want to say 5 or 6 shows total since the back end of 2025, going into the holiday break. And unequivocally, most of those shows have dealt with, if not all of them, have dealt with in some capacity our foreign policy or our military posture, force posture, and what we are doing outside of our own borders. Technically, with the understanding, or at least the excuse, that we are protecting those borders, right? That's the intent, is that your foreign policy is an extension and a reflection of, again, two sides of a coin, of the domestic policy. So the things that we do in foreign policy do have a direct impact and benefit to our domestic policy. I'll use this one quick little example to kind of keep you guys tight as we go forward into this show. I said in one of the shows early on that the economy of the United States is directly related to and a result of our foreign and military policy globally. Okay, so after World War II, and you should all know that, you should have gotten that in your high school history classes, I hope. After World War II, the United States became and was one of 2 superpowers on the planet. That was us and the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, 2 most powerful countries on the planet. And our winning of World War II in helping and allying with the European powers that were basically beat down and basically going, 9 rounds of getting the hell beat out of them by Germany and the Axis powers in general. But Germany, for the most part, and principally in Europe, we went to their aid. We helped them. And where does this go with foreign policy? Well, our direct military intervention, our assistance, our fighting of fascism of dictators resulted in us being the number one superpower militarily. And through that military and that force posture, it gave our economy a monster boost and a direct benefit. So all of those countries that needed to be repaired, all those countries that needed to trade and build again, who do you think they did it with? They did it with the United States. And so I'm not going to go too far here because this is an econ class by itself. Okay, an entire class, not just one session, but a whole course over 18 weeks. But the economy that the United States has built to where we are the largest economy on the planet today is a direct result and directly related to our military actions in World War II and the position we held as a country and as a superpower directly after World War II. If there were no alliances and partnering with those European countries that needed to rebuild their economies, then our economy would not be as strong as it is today. That is an objective fact, and that can be easily researched and learned on your own. You can do that on your own, okay? But that is where our markets were, and now we are all over the globe, principally because what we became after World War II, our military, and then as a result of it, our economy. Okay, so it all relates. And when I say economy, yes, that means we have trade partners, we make money, we grow, we export, we import. And we're the largest trader on the planet of goods. And all because of what we did during World War II and immediately thereafter in the nation building and the partnering and alliances. And there is segue here, I'm getting to it in a second, with European powers in those countries, right? And our economy, your economy, the United States economy, the largest on the planet, is a direct result of that. And I have spoken to that a little bit, not specifically in these terms, but in relation to where we are now as a people and the type of economy that we are fortunate enough to benefit from. Again, the largest, most powerful economy on the planet. Okay, principally on the backs of the partnerships and the alliances we built and constructed during and immediately after World War II. All right, so let me hold here. So it's foreign policy, and there is segue here. I'm moving to the topic for the night. Okay, today there were meetings held regarding what you see in the news or what you hear in the news regarding Greenland, the large island country off of our northeasternmost coast and in the northern Atlantic Sea, northern Atlantic Ocean. And if you're not aware, if you've been living under a rock, but I'm going to guess if you're watching this show, then you haven't been, and you're somewhat aware. You do know some things. Donald Trump has spoken overtly and outwardly about wanting to control or have Greenland, and there's no mincing words here. I'm not doing the MAGA garbage stuff where, well, he didn't mean to say that. They dance around it while he gets away with it, right? Let's just call it what it is. If he could get what he want, he would just literally just take Greenland, just take it, and it'd be his. And notice how I said his, not ours, not ours. We're not talking about ours, because Donald Trump operates in a method, in a way that it is his, personal. Okay, he's making money in the presidency, off the presidency right now. It's not going to us. He'll tell you out there that he's making money for you, even though we all know the economy isn't exactly humming right now. It's a mess and it's ugly, right? And that's day to day. Make your excuses all you want, but that's a fact. Okay, so I've been watching this, following this, playing this the whole time since he came into office. He's creeping up on 1 year in office, January 2021. 20 and 21st. And I've been monitoring this the whole time. I said this the first term that he was in office, that he is a problem for our alliances and our partnerships in the world, principally NATO. Now, I'm a NATO believer. I'm a NATO baby in that capacity, in that way. I served my country during a time when you could make the argument that NATO was at its greatest extent and that NATO achieved its ultimate victory, or the greatest victory it ever achieved without even firing a bullet. And let me run you the history lesson to a degree. For those of you that do know, I've said this before, shared it once or twice, but I was in Germany in uniform during the fall of the Berlin Wall. Now, communism as a separate world philosophy, antithetical and averse to capitalism, our form of democracy, was the most important and principal, if I want to say adversary, but definitely antagonist to the United States and the free world, Europe, etc. We outlasted that. We survived that. We won that Cold War. So yes, I consider myself a Cold War veteran. And those of you that have served and you served during that time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't have to elaborate too much. But for the most part, the Cold War, that period when there was not actually a hot war, meaning actual guns fired, meaning on a battlefield and we're going at it, but a Cold War that lasted, in essence, roughly from the end of World War II in the 40s, late 40s, mid to late 40s, up into and now until that time in the late 80s into the early 90s. And so with the fall of the Berlin Wall, that ended communism as our main antagonist for the United States and for the free world, capitalist societies, capitalist world. We survived that and we won that. We won a Cold War. It sounds like, okay, that's not, it is a war. We outlasted and survived through strength, through buildup for the most part of our military, peace through strength. Make your argument one way or the other, but it is a fact that it is how we did it. And we outlasted the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union no longer exists. The Russian Federation, or the Russian nation, now occupies that role, even though it's nowhere near as powerful, because the Soviet Union was made up of a lot of different Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, republics, meaning there was a whole bunch of them, small countries, states, whatever you want to name them. And then they broke off, the Ukraine being one of them, by the way. Okay. So the USSR and its direct descendant, the Russian Federation. The Russian Federation is no longer or nowhere near as big as what the USSR was. All right. So I'm giving you a lot here, but USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The direct result of that left over is the Russian Federation, headed by President Putin. And that is what we deal with today. But we did defeat and we removed, or at the very least, we removed the threat of communism as a governing world philosophy, as our direct antagonist in the world and on the world stage politically. Okay, so that's done. So where we are now is what was left over from that, and principally through NATO. I'm giving you a lot tonight, so I'm going to give you facts and things that you can use if you did not know them. So Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR, right? The direct result of that is the Russian Federation, headed by Vladimir Putin, President Putin. Our body, our group of people, our alliance and our partnerings and our partnerships was basically NATO. Okay, the construct of which principally the United States devised and agreed to by the European powers that were beat on and at odds with Germany during World War II. So the NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, obviously it's geographic in term, right? North Atlantic. And for the most part, that is Europe, which is in the Northern Hemisphere above the equator, and North America, principally the United States and Canada, above the equator and in the Northern Hemisphere. Therefore, the North Atlantic, meaning the countries and the geographic entities that border or are on the Atlantic Ocean in North America and Europe. So the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, giving you some visuals and some understanding of why the treaty was named that. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and I'm going to make this real simple, unequivocal, and there's no debate. It's just fact. Maybe somewhere down the road, 100 years from now, we can debate and it'll be something else. But for right now, and for roughly the last 80 years, since 1945 and the end of World War II. For the last 80 years, NATO, in its capacity as our principal alliance with Europe and those powers, those European powers, is the single most and most important alliance and congregation of military forces in the history of the world. Period. Full stop. All the other cool hoorah things that people say to, end debate. But that's just a fact. That is not debatable. Based on numbers, based on bodies, based on military hardware, all of the above. NATO is the most powerful military alliance in the history of the world, in the history of humanity. Period. And we have led that, the United States. So, as we go forward to today and my bringing up of the Greenland situation and what our president has said, if you read the title to this show tonight, the stream, my statement or claim is that the United States, and I don't believe it's a debate because we are doing it and it has been done. The damage is already done. The United States has destabilized and is destabilizing NATO, and by extension, the free world, capitalist societies, all right? Because in the past, the understanding was that the president of the United States and the United States as a people and as a whole led and were leaders of the free world. And I don't know about you, those watching, viewers, members, I don't know about you, but I kind of like that. And I'm a little guilty here. Some of you may not be with me, and I'm not making it a bad or a good. It's just the reality and a point of fact thing. Some people don't want to lead. They don't want to be leaders. And listen, and that's okay. There is nothing wrong with that. Not everybody should lead, and not everybody should want to be leaders. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make you bad, wrong, or good, or right. None of the above. It is simply a statement of fact and a state of which our society views and exists when it comes to people and doing things, right? So we have led the free world, however, since World War II, and our inception as one of the two, and then ultimately the only world's superpower, meaning the most powerful country on the planet. That is us right now. We are that. We've been that for a little while now. And what I mean by a little while, I mean decades. Okay. And that is a direct result, piggybacking off of what we did during World War II and our buildup. And everybody should know we spent a lot of money on our military. And I'm not saying that in a pejorative way. I'm saying that because that is what we do. I do believe in strength, and I believe in peace through strength. Now, I also believe that having the strength doesn't give you the right or the duty to use that strength on people just because you can. That's actually, in my world, that's actually not strong. That's a weak bitch. You're stronger than someone else, you beat on them and you pick on them because you can. That doesn't make you strong. That makes you a punk. You use that strength when it is necessary. You use that strength when it is obvious that someone is doing wrong or someone is harming you and yours directly. Or in the case of World War II, we were attacked. I brought that up last show. We were attacked December 7th by Pearl Harbor, by the Japanese at Pearl Harbor. And we responded. We used our strength and we grew. Okay. But we weren't attacked by the Nazis directly. However, because the Japanese were allied with the Nazis, that it embroiled us and we had to get into it. And I think for the most part, there was plenty historically, by the way, this is all in the history books. There were plenty on our side of the Atlantic in the United States that believed that we should have involved ourselves in World War II earlier. And maybe Hitler wouldn't have taken pretty much all of Europe, France and Spain, everything. Okay. And maybe more lives would have been saved. I actually argue that is true. I believe that. I do believe that we should have gotten into the war earlier, a little earlier, and should have fought against Hitler earlier. And I'll say it. We would have beaten them earlier too. And so by extension, if you're smart, if you're thinking, if we would have beaten them earlier, what would that mean? It would mean that there would have been less casualties and less death. And that's what I believe you should use your strength for, to prevent those types of things. Okay, so let's get to our point here for the night. The Greenland situation and what Donald Trump is doing in the wake of his decisions to put this out there for God and man to see, for the whole world to see. So there was a meeting today by our officials. I'm going to guess the Joke Hegseth and the Prime Minister of Denmark and the representative from Greenland. I can't, forgive me, but I don't remember the title of her role for Greenland. Greenland is part of Denmark, the Kingdom of Denmark. Okay, so it's not its own separate country. It's part of the island. Greenland is part of Denmark, the Kingdom of Denmark. So they came out today and they announced that they had met with the United States and its representatives. And they did the political dance. I don't fault them because they have to, right? Denmark's a small country, ladies and gentlemen. They're like the really little brother to us in NATO. And so they sat at the table with Big Brother, us, let's call it what it is. And the Big Brother told them, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm just going off of what's already been out in public, what's been said, that in essence, the United States wants Greenland to protect our own interests, our borders. We want to keep the world safe from Russia and China. And like China hasn't had a boat there in like decades, you know, kind of stupid. And it's just basically hyperbole and exaggeration. But I feel bad. And watch, I'm American, right? But I feel bad for Denmark and I feel bad for Greenland because those people, they're getting bullied. Let's just call it what it is. We're the bully. Watch that. See how that works now? You gain a little power, you get a little too much to the head, and then you start bullying people because you can. And as I just said a few minutes ago, being strong doesn't mean you have the right to go pick on others that aren't as strong. I evaluate strength as those who exercise restraint in strength, meaning you're capable of these things. You can beat the hell out of everybody, whoop everybody up, but you don't because you know it's not necessary. And you don't go picking on people that can't fight back or that aren't as powerful as you. And I'm going to say it again, that's a punk. You pick on the easy ones because they're not as strong as you. I don't see Donald Trump standing toe-to-toe with Putin, calling him a punk and calling him out. Because Donald Trump won't do that. We've already seen that. He punked out. Our president punked out to another. Do I see him that aggressive with Xi Jinping in China? No. Is he that aggressive with Vladimir Putin? No. All of the above. Because he fears them. Individually, for sure, definitely. I'm going to say this, and I've said this before. I said this once a long time ago. Vladimir Putin was a KGB station chief in Berlin during the Cold War. And I'll say it point blank. If I had no choice, I'm not a gambling guy, by the way. I don't gamble. Just don't. I don't like doing things I have no control over. That's up to chance. Not me. Anyway, but if I had to lay money on putting our lard ass in chief and Vladimir Putin in a room and one comes out, I'm putting all my money on Vladimir Putin because that won't be very long. That guy was a station chief, KGB, during the Cold War in Berlin, the roughest place on the planet to be at that time when it came to counter-espionage spies, just killing, of your enemies. That dude's a killer. He is a bona fide killer. That's why he doesn't give a damn about anything. He really doesn't. So Donald Trump doesn't stand up to him. He doesn't call him out. He doesn't play tough with him or the other world leaders that are also powerful. He goes and he picks on the countries that aren't powerful. He goes and picks on the leaders that cannot fight back. He goes and picks on people that have no ability to defend themselves against us, the people of the United States and our military. The Caribbean operations, the Venezuela incident, the Venezuela killings, where we went into Venezuela and just killed people. We're picking on people. We're the bully. Get it? And I don't know about you, but I'm not okay with that. I like being the brown guy on the white horse going to defend the people that can't defend themselves. I don't like picking on people that can't defend themselves. I like fighting for those people. And in my world, in my view, and my two grandfathers that taught me what I needed to know about what our nation's military was from their time in World War II, we fought against the people that were like that. We didn't become them, although we are now. So to my underlying statement for the title of the show tonight, the United States currently is destabilizing NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, through its actions, through its threats, through its innuendo, and its insinuations on Greenland and how we want to take it and make it our own, and how we do that. So let's be clear. There are components to this that are not, basically up for debate or debatable. I'm going to give you one here. And I know this because I had a class on it when I was in the Army, primary leadership and development school. We had to go over NATO treaty alliances, etc. So there is, and you maybe have heard, if you're in tune, you pay attention a little. There is, NATO is a document. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization is a document created by the United States and its allies after World War II for mutual defense and a pact, P-A-C-T, a pact for self-defense and defense with our allies. And it's really simple. And its simplicity is the beauty of it. And that is why for roughly 80 years, 8 decades, the world has not had a World War III. Now, I want you to consider that. It's okay and fair, I get it. If you're an American, like, well, we pay for everything, we spend more money than all the other countries in NATO, and that's all fair, by the way. I agree with you. Now, watch this. If you're a Trumper and you're watching this, and I know it's hard for you to get through this much fact without like genuflecting and being repulsed by me saying something about the bone spur guy in chief. But I agree, and I don't think anybody will disagree, that we shouldn't be paying an oversized, unfair amount while others get away with not doing their fair share. Okay, that's a generality. That's fair and that's simple, and I agree with it. What I don't agree with is threatening our partners and our allies to make them do so. That's why you have presidents. That's why you have governments to negotiate and work with and talk to other countries and other world leaders to get them to common ground. That's what leadership is. Leadership isn't, I'm going to whoop your ass. Leadership is, I want you to sit down with me. We're going to work this out so I don't have to whoop your ass. It's kind of that, right? Yeah, we're tough. We're big. We have the most powerful military the world has ever seen. But again, does it give us the right to bully others? The answer is a resounding, unequivocal, and a rhetorical answer, no. No. If you think it's yes, you're part of the problem. You're a bully. You want to be Nazi Germany. You want to be the Japanese Empire of World War II. You want to be the Russian Federation of Vladimir Putin or the Chinese nation of Xi Jinping. If that's what you want, then you're not American. That's un-American. That's fundamentally, unequivocally, and not up for debate, un-American. As I mentioned last show, we fought a revolution and fought back because we didn't like that. So what? 250 years later, we can become that? That's about as asinine, asshat stupid as you will ever see. And as I say that, you could actually make the argument like, well, that happens all the time. And I mean, historically, through the vast range and panoply of history, its entire arc, from when we crawled out of caves and into the 3300s BCE, when we began to form groups of people that became nations, and on down. I can go on and on about all of these things. That is who we are. We ultimately don't last, and we become that with which we rebelled against or fought against to start. And then we become that. And then someone does it to us. All right. So put all that in the box, because all those are all true statements, facts. And let's go here. And like I said, we're going to make the show a little shorter tonight, but I want to hammer hard. I've given you a lot of facts and a lot of data already, but I'm going to hammer hard here today. The United States is destabilizing NATO right now because the rest of Europe, the rest of our NATO allies are not in agreement with us, just us alone, the United States, that it is okay for the United States to take Greenland in whatever capacity that looks like. Put boots on the ground. I hate that damn term, by the way. Put boots on the ground, send our troops into and get in a fight or fight against our allies in Greenland and the rest of Europe. Okay, so let me read you this. This is informative for today if you've never done it before. The principal and linchpin article in the NATO founding document that we have abided by for roughly 8 decades with the European powers, the usual suspects, Britain, Great Britain, France, Germany, all of them. Okay, all of those that are part of what we are now. Here is the exact rendering, the exact reading of NATO's Article 5 that we are all bound to because we agreed to it as an American people. These are our rules. We agreed to them and we've lived by them and we have benefited from them for 8 decades because there has never been, or there hasn't been, a World War III because of NATO. No debate, done, no argument. Even Trump nuts don't even try to argue because you look even more stupid than you normally do. NATO's Article 5 is the cornerstone of its collective defense, stating that, and these are the principal words, an attack against one member is considered an attack against all members, obligating thereby other members to assist the attacked party, potentially including the use of armed force to restore the security of that that attacked or aggrieved party, nation. It's the alliance's core principle, ensuring shared security. I'll interject here. If you're not safe alone, then you're safe with your allies, your partners, your friends, your family. You ever walk down the alley in the middle of the night by yourself? You're more likely to get attacked if you're not walking with 5. Common sense, simple, as simple as it gets. Wolves don't hunt solo, they hunt in packs. You get it? Okay. There has been only one time that NATO's Article 5 has been invoked in its entire roughly 8 decade existence. The September 11 terrorist attacks on the United States in 2001 led to NATO supporting the United States for operations in the Middle East and Afghanistan. And watch how as I insert this. We invoked Article 5, the United States, we invoked Article 5, and a monster amount, and don't quote me, but I can't remember exactly what the number was, but an overwhelming majority of the NATO allies sent money or soldiers to assist us in Afghanistan after we were attacked on 9/11. They came to our aid. They abided by NATO's Article 5, which they agreed to. And they came to assist the United States. Awesome. Badass. That's why the agreement and the NATO alliance treaty exists. So that if one is attacked, an attack on one is an attack on all. That leads to safety and security for everybody. For everybody. So I want to hammer that point home to you, my listener, my viewer, Mexican America, America in general. There has been only one time that Article 5 of the NATO Treaty Alliance has been invoked, and that is when we, the United States, was attacked on September 11, 2001. And all of those countries in Europe, they came to our aid. We were the principal component because we were attacked and we have the largest force, but all those other countries, Australia, Great Britain, and I'm going to say it, Denmark, little bitty Denmark, that little country, they sent people. I think there was a quote. I got to remember what exact. I'll try to follow up on this. Hold me to it in the comment section. But I think Denmark, the country, the little bitty country, lost as many soldiers in Afghanistan as the United States. Consider that. Our ally came to our aid, and they lost as many soldiers, as many sons and daughters as we did. That's badass. That's awesome. Okay? Not the death, obviously, but the fact that they're willing to commit and give the lives of their men and women, their kids, their young people, to abide by and to uphold their honor in abiding by NATO's Article 5 to defend us, to defend the United States and its people. And 25 years later, 24 years later, we're causing them problems. We're messing with them. We are picking and we are bullying Denmark. There's no way around it. Let's not play games and no bullshit here. Okay, this isn't a show meant for a mainstream media outlet, and I have to be measured and a little bit pulled back. And I'm not even talking about the language or the verbiage, et cetera, but the intent, the intensity, the conviction of it. It's staggering to me that 24 plus years later, after Denmark sent their young men and women to help defend us and died for us, died for our country, died for our people, now we're picking and bullying them to try to take a piece of their land, trying to take some of their land. That's a punk ass move. That's a bitch move on our part, right? It's just simple. That's a bitch move on our part. You don't have to like it, but I don't give a damn because it's a fact. That is what it is. So here's the major component that I want my listeners, we're going to finish here, but I want my listeners to remember this after we're done today. Pay attention going forward. Remember I said, ask a lot of questions. Always ask questions. Always start with the intent to be inquisitive and query what you see and what you hear and what's going on. So we've had that meeting. The Danish people came out and they gave their rendering. And for the record, they came out and they did a press conference in English. Could you imagine Trump trying to do a press conference so that the other side can hear and he does it, in Danish? Yeah, that ain't happening. They're smart. We're not that much. Not like that. They actually give a damn. They care. They can actually speak multiple languages. We can't. Okay, so they've already made their intentions clear. And as of today, and I'm going to follow up with this a little bit over the next few days, and we're going to get into next week, right? We'll be back on next Tuesday. We're getting comfortable with this time, roughly around 6:30 or so on the Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'll follow up, learn a little bit more. I may revisit this and come back to it, depending on what happens over this weekend, Friday into the weekend. But the French, Swedish, the Danish, of course, have all sent special operators and troops. Guess where? Yes, to Greenland. I think it's sad that they even have to do that. Okay, and here's the problem with all of this. The document in NATO's Article 5 says that if a country is attacked, then it obligates the others to come to its defense. But I'm going to guess they never thought that the attack, and again, God willing, it never happens. Hope we don't get there. But I'm going to guess they never thought that the attack would come from another NATO member. Insert laugh here. Insert laugh emoji and joke. Okay? I'm sure they never thought that because guess what? The framers of that document, I say constitution, but the framers of that document, the creators of that document, the principal constructors of the NATO Treaty Alliance were Americans. They're the United States. So no, they never thought that we'd have some asshat president later picking on a NATO member. Go figure. Lastly, and this is a little kernel for you, for the rest of you, to understand that I do watch and I do listen to asshat media from the cult bubble. And it is hard, but for the sake of argument, for the sake of learning and understanding, I do. And the argument is this. The argument is this. Oh, and by the way, we've heard this before a million times, right? And it all goes south and we just move on. Oh, it's just a negotiating tactic on the part of our president because he's a wheeler and dealer. No, he's a stupid ass con man. He's a bullshitter. All right, let's just put that on the table and make it simple. This is supposed to be his grand negotiating tactic to get Greenland to the table so we can get a little bit more out of them. And then ultimately, he'll taco. And you know what that is. Trump always chickens out. Because at core, he's a weak little bitch. He's never had to fight a battle of his own in his whole life. Somebody's got that. Please prove it to me. I did have a kid one time tell me like, oh, he was with the WWE. Didn't you see him? And I was like, if you're raising that as an illustration of toughness, get out of my room. I don't want to hear it. But do I think he would be stupid enough, evil enough to mobilize our military to go fight in Greenland against all of Europe? No. And for the record, that wouldn't be smart. All right. Not to say that he's not stupid, but he chickens out and he doesn't fight ultimately, unless it's easy and he can get an easy win without him ever paying a price for anything. Physically, definitely not. He would never put himself in harm's way. He never has been. He doesn't have to. He's a candy ass. But politically and economically, right? He always looks out for that. So I don't think he would do that. But if the argument is it's a negotiating tactic to get something out of Denmark and Greenland, then I understand that argument. I do. Now, for the record, notice I'm not saying I agree with it or I think it's smart. I understand it. It can be, and it is a negotiating tactic. He has done this before in other instances, not just a foreign power and its people. But, big insert but. The problem here is this is the world. These are our allies. These are foreign nations with smart people that run them, far smarter than our dumbasses at the top. And you don't negotiate in this way, whether you get what you want or not. You don't negotiate in this way without paying a price for it. Hence, and to underscore my title for tonight's show, the U.S. destabilizes NATO. That has been done. It's already done. Whatever he does from now on, if he does nothing ever again to do with Greenland, it doesn't matter. It's already been done. You've bullied and tried to intimidate or threaten a foreign power, a foreign leader, an ally, a NATO member. It's already been done. And lastly, for those of you that watch and pay attention, and again, watch this into the weekend, it's already been done. You have NATO members openly questioning each other and the intent and role of its major member, its principal power, the United States. We don't agree. We're not agreeing as a body, the most powerful military alliance the world has ever seen. And I submit to you, that is not only not good for us, it is also by extension not good for the rest of Europe, the NATO alliance in general. It is not good for the free world, because if I'm Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, Donald Trump is accomplishing for us what we have tried to do on our own with our countries for decades. It is gift wrapped. Vladimir Putin doesn't have to do a damn thing. His principal antagonist is the NATO treaty alliance. If the NATO alliance is weaker, then by extension, autocrats, dictators, and other world powers are stronger. Again, not up for debate. Simple fact historically. So consider that as we wrap up tonight. Consider what I'm telling you now. Donald Trump is not just destabilizing, and I'm going to go here, weakening our alliance with Europe and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. He is not just weakening it in the present going forward tense, but I submit to you that it is in the past tense. NATO is weaker today because of the actions of our president and the stupidity with which he operates in his negotiating tactic. So again, we're not getting Greenland. The only way we get Greenland is literally if we invade it and take it. And if we did that, then the NATO 5, Article 5, requires and demands that all of those countries in Europe, all of them, defend and support Greenland against the attacker. In this case, it would be us. So as I say that, like, well, then they're not going to do that. Yeah, they're probably not. But again, it does not matter. And for those of you guys that think he's actually smart, I got to question you for believing his bullshit at this point. He is the most lying president in the history of the country, period. That's not even up for debate. So if that is his main component, his raison to exist, that he is negotiating for a better deal, that shit doesn't work when you're dealing with foreign heads of states, leaders, and our allies. You don't harm your own people. You take care of your people the way they took care of us. Denmark, I see you and I thank you for the lives you shed of your own people and your blood when we were attacked. And I'm disgusted and appalled and a whole bunch of other words I won't even name today, that we as a country, the United States, led by our sack of shit president, is actually intimidating and threatening you. For the record, if anybody in Denmark, anybody in Greenland is watching this, make sure I'm clear. I'm a prior service United States military member, and I do not support the threats and the intimidation and the bullying that our president is doing to your people. Do not. 100%. So again, pay attention to all that this weekend. Watch as this goes forward. Again, I don't think he'll go all the way through with it, but I submit to you that this isn't just something you throw away like, oh, he just did that. No, he has already weakened and destabilized the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the alliance that has kept the world free of a World War III for 80 years. That is a special kind of stupid. Have a good weekend. Pay attention, watch, and we'll be back this coming Tuesday to pick up maybe where we left off and move on to a few other things. Thank you very much. Nothing but love for you.